Hi, my name's Sonia and this is my channel, See It Then, See It Now. Today's video is part one of a three-part series where I show you how I decoupage on wood, glass and plastic. Decoupage, in my opinion, is a great craft. I absolutely love it. You can take a plain, cheap looking item and turn it into a beautiful, unique statement piece that looks much more high-end. Let me show you what I mean. As I've already mentioned, this is part one of 3 videos where I show you how I decoupage. I enjoy this medium as there's many possibilities. I'll show you what I mean by that through the series. You can use paper, napkins, rice paper or even wrapping paper on pretty much any hard surface. In this video I will use printer paper on wood and I will give you some of my opinions. This will be in the form of a pros and cons list. I got this little box from Poundland a while ago with a different use in mind, but it was the wrong size, so it's been sat waiting for a plan B, and it was an ideal choice for decoupaging with printer paper because printer paper works better on flat, even surfaces. First job was to prep the box for painting. I removed the stickers and then removed the paper off the top with a wet rag. I wasn't sure how the paint was going to go over it, and it was lifting very slightly in one corner, so it had to go. Once cleaned up, I removed the lid and painted the box cream on the outside and grey on the inside. First pro to using printer paper to decoupage. You can choose any design or even create your own and then just print it out. I chose this one from thegraphicsfairy.com. This site is amazing. There's hundreds of beautiful free printables. I'll leave a link in the description box. Once you have your printout, you need to make the paper thinner. If you glue without thinning, it'll bubble and crease. To thin the paper, I covered the whole of the back with packing tape and I made sure that it was well stuck on. I then carefully removed the tape so as not to tear the paper, and as I removed it, some of the surface came away. I repeated this process again to make it even thinner. The thinner the paper, the better. 2 times seems enough, 3 times and you're pushing your luck and it may tear. When you're tearing printer paper, if you tear like this, you need to ensure that you pull the piece you're going to use towards you, because the back piece will have this white bit along the edge and that will show up in your design. If you're likely to need both parts of the paper, then you can tear it like this, which is kind of like pulling the paper apart. This will avoid ending up with the white edge. I tore around the design to get the first piece and then I glued it into place using Mod Podge. I tend to start in the middle of the paper and work out. This helps to keep the paper positioned correctly, removing bubbles and avoiding creasing. Just start by putting glue down the middle of the design area, and once you've got that in place, fold back the paper, add more glue to the next section and then dab and smooth it into position, working outwards. Another pro to using printer paper is it doesn't tear as easily as some papers do once it's been glued. You can touch it with your fingers gently without any issue. It's a bit more durable. I do put cellophane over the paper before smoothing any lumps and bumps out, just to make sure that as the paper gets wet it doesn't tear, just in case. It is best to just leave a bit of paper overhanging around the edge of the lid, and once the glue is dry you can use sandpaper to remove the excess and it leaves a nice clean straight edge. Once the first piece was on, I continued to cover the rest of the lid in the design, doing my best to match up the writing part of the design in an attempt to disguise the seams between the papers. When you're decoupaging, if you tear around the edges of your paper, where two different pieces meet, the papers will blend together and the joins will be less noticeable than if you were to join two edges that were straight and that hadn't been torn. Once it's all dry, cover the whole area with a coat of Mod Podge to seal the paper. Time for a con. I don't think printer paper gives as good as a look as some papers. What do I mean by that? I have been asked on more than one occasion if I have painted a piece that I've decoupaged, whereas this clearly looks like paper. I do, however, love how it looks once a layer of the dark finishing wax is over it. Another con is if you're wanting to cover a very intricate piece with lots of uneven surface, printer paper doesn't work as well as some of the other paper options. Because the printer paper is thicker, it doesn't mould into the uneven surfaces easily. The thinner papers kinda just sink into the uneven area and are much easier to manipulate on those kind of pieces. You will see exactly what I mean in part 2. Now that the decoupage part is done, let me show you how I finished off the rest of the box. I decided to put some clay mouldings onto the front and sides of the box. You've seen me do this before on my tray video. If you haven't seen that, then do go check that out. And I will be doing this more in part 3 of this series. Once I'd created the moulds, I painted them. Very slowly, it would seem on watch back of the footage. I glued them to the box that I had painted in the same paint as the moulds, as you will see here. I then sat and pondered. I didn't not like it, but I was just not loving it. So out came the paint. I mixed cushion white chalk paint and buff titanium acrylic paint and baking soda to create texture, and I painted over the whole base again and over the moulds that I'd taken an age to paint the first time. Once this was dry, I went over it with the dark wax that I'd used on the lid. I stuck flat backed pearls to the bottom of the feet, easy for you to say, with E6000, and used a bit of white and rose red acrylic paint to highlight the design in the moulds. Popped a ribbon and a bow on top with hot glue, varnished over the base just to make sure it was all sealed, and the box was now complete. Could have been used for a storage trinket box, but I had a different plan. So let's remind ourselves and see it then. And let's see it now. just love how this turned out. It looks so good. Obviously you don't have to put flowers in, you could just leave it as a storage box, but I just absolutely love it. Like I've already said, the image that I used to decoupage the lid, that came from the graphics fair. You can get so many free printables on there. There's some really beautiful stuff on there. I'll put a link in the description box below along with a list of the products that I used for this craft. If you'd like to see some of my past decoupage projects, then do go over and have a look at my Instagram, Facebook and Pinterest. Please hit the like button, leave me a comment, I'd love to know what you think, and if you want to see the next video in this series, then do hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. That's it for me for now, so see you later, bye!